His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received at Sakhir Palace Their Majesties and Highnesses, leaders of the GCC member states, and their representatives on the occasion of their participation in the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council hosted by the Kingdom of Bahrain. Upon their arrival at the venue of the Bahrain Summit, His Majesty the King welcomed Qatar's Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani. UAE Vice President and Deputy Prime Minister His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The Emir of Kuwait, His Highness Sheikh Mish'al Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah. Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud. His Majesty welcomed Their Majesties and Highnesses in Bahrain, wishing them a pleasant stay and expressing gratitude and appreciation for their attendance and acceptance of the invitation to participate in this important Gulf Summit. His Majesty wished the summit success to boost the GCC's joint action to achieve its objectives toward greater solidarity, cooperation, coordination and integration among the GCC states, as well as to meet the aspiration of their brotherly people for further development, progress and prosperity. For their part, Their Majesties and Highnesses convey thanks and appreciation to His Majesty for the warm reception and generous hospitality, wishing the summit success under His Majesty's leadership. A formal group photograph was taken, after which His Majesty the King, the GCC leaders and their representatives proceeded to the main summit hall, where they were greeted by students from Bahrain's Ministry of Education schools, followed by a traditional Bahraini Arda performance held on the occasion. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa chaired the opening session of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council Bahrain Summit held at Al Sakhir Palace in the presence of Their Majesties and Highnesses, the GCC leaders and their representatives. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa and the GCC Secretary General.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها. كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون. ولا تكونوا كالذين تفرقوا واختلفوا من بعد ما جاءهم البينات وأولئك لهم عذاب عظيم. صدق الله العظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب الجلالة والسمو، الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسعدنا أن نرحب بكم أطيب ترحيب بين أهلكم وإخوانكم في مملكة البحرين، معربين عن بالغ اعتزازنا باستضافة هذه القمة المباركة التي نجدد من خلالها حرصنا على مواصلة المسيرة العريقة للعمل الخليجي المشترك المستمد قوتها من وشائج الأخوة والقربة والمتسلحة بوحدة الهدف والمصير. ويطيب لنا أن نتوجه بخالص الشكر والتقدير لأخينا العزيز صاحب السمو الشيخ مشعل الأحمد الجابر الصباح أمير دولة الكويت الشقيقة على قيادته الرشيدة للدورة السابقة وما حققته من نتائج مثمرة أسهمت في خدمة المصالح العليا لمجلس التعاون وتلبية تطلعات شعوبه. أصحاب الجلالة والسمو، عند تأمل مسيرة هذا الصرح الخليجي الشامخ الذي بدأه الآباء المؤسسون بكل إخلاص ومحبة، يتأكد لنا صواب توجهاته نحو ضرورات التكامل والاندماج بما يتناسب مع ثقله الاستراتيجي ويظهر مكانته كقوة فاعلة ومؤثرة في السياسة الإقليمية والدولية، كما ورد في النظام الأساسي لهذا المجلس العزيز على الجميع. ولقد أثبتت التجربة العملية صدق هذا الواقع، إذ تمكنا بفضل الله ثم بفضل التزام دولنا وجدية عمل المجلس من صياغة نموذج تنموي متكامل الأركان يجمع بين القدرة على المنافسة العالمية وتأمين أعلى درجات الاستقرار والازدهار. ولم يكن بالإمكان تحقيق هذه المكتسبات لولا الرؤية المشتركة والسياسات الموحدة التي جعلت من أولوياتها إرساء الأمن الخليجي والحفاظ على السيادة الوطنية واحترام مبادئ حسن الجوار وعدم التدخل في الشؤون الداخلية للدول، انطلاقا من قاعدة ذهبية مفادها أن أمن دول المجلس واستقرارها وازدهارها كل لا يتجزأ. ولا يفوتنا في هذه المناسبة أن نشيد بما أنجز في مسارات التعاون المشترك، وخصوصا ما يتصل بالمواطنة الخليجية والوحدة الاقتصادية، متطلعين إلى استكمال مشروع الاتحاد الجمركي والسوق الخليجية المشتركة وتوسيع شراكاتنا في مجالات الأمن الغذائي والمائي والاقتصاد الرقمي والطاقة المتجددة وغيرها من القطاعات الحيوية. أصحاب الجلالة والسمو، في ظل ما تشهده منطقتنا من تطورات متلاحقة تتأكد أهمية مواصلة سعينا المشترك بروح من العزم والحكمة والانفتاح لمعالجة القضايا الإقليمية وفي مقدمتها القضية الفلسطينية، اعتماداً على الحوار والخيارات السياسية والدبلوماسية التي تعزز الاستقرار وتفتح آفاقاً راسخة لأمن المنطقة وتنميتها المستدامة. ونؤكد أهمية استكمال تنفيذ خطة السلام في غزة لما تمثله من خطوة إيجابية نحو وقف التصعيد وتهيئة الأجواء لتسريع مسار إحلال السلام العادل والمستدام، وبما يضمن إقامة الدولة الفلسطينية المستقلة وعاصمتها القدس الشرقية وفق قرارات الشرعية الدولية ومبادرة السلام العربية. أما فيما يتعلق بأمن الخليج العربي والاستقرار الإقليمي، فإننا نرى ضرورة حماية الملاحة البحرية والتجارة الدولية من أي تهديد والحفاظ على خلو المنطقة من أسلحة الدمار الشامل. استناداً إلى التوجهات الاستراتيجية لمجلس التعاون في مجال الأمن والدفاع الجماعي، وبالتعاون مع شبكة تحالفاته، سعياً لترسيخ قيم الأخوة الإنسانية والتعايش السلمي بما يعزز ثقافة السلام ويكرس الاحترام المتبادل بين الشعوب. وفي الختام، لنجعل من هذا المجلس مجدداً للعهد وسوقاً خليجية حرة عادلة وقوة ناعمة قادرة على حماية هويتنا ووحدة مجتمعاتنا، ومستقبل تبنى فيه التنمية على العلم والإبداع والكرامة، سائلين المولى عز وجل أن يوفقنا جميعاً لما فيه خير رفعة دولنا ومنفعة شعوبنا وسط عالم أكثر عدلاً واستقراراً ورخاء. شكراً لكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Afterwards, the chairman of the 45th session of the GCC Supreme Council, the Emir of Kuwait, His Highness Sheikh Mish'al Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, delivered the speech. The GCC Secretary General Jassim Mohammed Al Badawi also delivered a speech. Then the Secretary General announced the adjournment of the opening session of the 46th GCC Summit. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the chairman of the current session of the GCC Supreme Council, then presided over the closed working session of the summit, during which Their Majesties and Highnesses, the leaders of the GCC member states, discussed the issues and topics on this summit agenda.
يطيب لي أن أستهل
His Highness the Emir of
كلمتي
Kuwait, Sheikh Mish'al Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Salah, expressed gratitude to His Majesty the King and praised the Bahraini people for their warm hospitality. He congratulated Bahrain on assuming the GCC presidency and wished success in continuing the Council's path of integration and prosperity. His Highness also congratulated Bahrain on its election as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council for the year 2026-2027, highlighting Bahrain's international standing and its capacity to contribute to international peace and security. Finally, His Highness expressed appreciation to the GCC leaders for their sincere cooperation during Kuwait's presidency of the previous session, noting their resolve to follow the founder's path. His Highness noted that their efforts strengthen cohesion and solidarity, guiding their peoples and nations towards prosperity and rooted in noble principles and steadfast values.
أصحاب الجلالة والسمو حفظكم الله ورعاكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
The Secretary General of the GCC, Jassim Al-Badawi, gave a speech where he congratulated His Majesty the King on presiding over the 46th session of the GCC Summit. Al-Badawi expressed optimism for the Council's future, emphasizing its potential as a beacon of unity. He congratulated the Emir of Kuwait for his notable leadership during the 45th session of the GCC, and he highlighted the GCC's successful regional collaboration, demonstrating political stability, economic growth, and security through major achievements such as the GCC-US Summit in Riyadh, the GCC-ASEAN Summit, and the various trilateral meetings with international partners. He pointed out the value of military cooperation following the extraordinary session of the Joint Defense Council. He noted critical developments, including the formation of the Gulf Civil Aviation Authority, amendments to tax regulations, and the launch of initiatives like the Gulf Industrial Platform. He mentioned progress on the Customs Union and the steps towards improving the Gulf Common Market. Al-Badawi underscored the issuance of a guide to legislative drafting and the promotion of integrity through anti-corruption guidelines. The establishment of a Gulf market aimed at ensuring financial and administrative oversight while upholding, along with the adoption of the security strategy for combating money laundering crimes for 2026-2030. He confirmed preparations for the Gulf Global Security Conference slated for 2027 in the UAE and tactical exercises to enhance regional security collaboration.
جمع بين الاستقرار السياسي والازدهار الاقتصادي.
His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the chairman of the current session of the GCC Supreme Council, chaired the second working session of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council at Sakhir Palace. The session was attended by the summit's guest of honor, President of Italy's Council of Ministers, Giorgia Meloni.
أصحاب الجلالة والسمو دولة السيدة جورجيا ميلوني رئيسة الوزراء في الجمهورية الإيطالية الصديقة، الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يطيب لنا بداية أن نرحب بحضور رئيسة وزراء الجمهورية الإيطالية الصديقة السيدة جورجيا ميلوني كضيفة شرف القمة، وبالوفد المرافق لها، متمنين لها طيب الإقامة في مملكة البحرين والتوفيق والنجاح لكافة مساعيها التي نقدرها ونعتز بها. إن مشاركتكم الكريمة تجسد عمق ما يجمع دولنا وشعوبنا من علاقات راسخة قوامها الثقة والتفاهم والاحترام المتبادل، وتعبر في الوقت ذاته عن تطلعاتنا المشتركة إلى تعزيز تحالفاتنا الاستراتيجية البناءة. ومن هذا المنطلق نؤكد حرص دول مجلس التعاون على تطوير التعاون وتوسيع آفاق الشراكة مع الجمهورية الإيطالية الصديقة، وتوثيق الروابط الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والثقافية بين شعوبنا استناداً إلى قيم الحوار الحضاري والتقارب الإنساني. كما نعتز بما حققته الجمهورية الإيطالية من تقدم ملحوظ على مختلف الأصعدة، ونقدر دورها الرائد في دعم الأمن والسلم الدوليين ومساهمتها الفاعلة في حماية أمن الملاحة البحرية الدولية، وأننا نشارككم تطلعاتكم إلى إحلال السلام والاستقرار في منطقتنا والعالم، وهو هدف يتطلب تضافر الجهود الدولية لتمكين الشعوب من العيش في أمن وازدهار. وختاماً نرحب بكم مجدداً متطلعين إلى أن يسفر اجتماعنا هذا عن نتائج مثمرة تعزز علاقات الصداقة وتثري مجالات التعاون بين دول مجلس التعاون وبلدكم الصديق. تفضلوا بإلقاء خطابكم الكريم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
For your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, dear friends, it is a great honor for me to be here with you all today, and I deeply thank once again His Majesty King Hamad for this historic opportunity that the Gulf Cooperation Council is offering to Italy. Italy is a nation with an ancient heart, with a forward-looking attitude, capable of captivating the world with its identity and trying to play a leading role on the European and international stage. It is a story lost in the midst of time. The Limes Arabicus, the border between the Roman Empire and the Arabian Peninsula, was not a rigid separation, but a space for transit, communication, and trade, crossed by that spice route that united ancient Rome and India after crossing the Mediterranean. And Italy could never conceive of itself without the Mediterranean, the very heart of the world's political, cultural, and commercial exchanges for millennia, and still today the shortest route of communication between the planet's two great maritime spaces, the Atlantic Ocean and the Indo-Pacific. I'm convinced that considering both the Mediterranean and the Gulf as regional seas, alien to the great challenges, is reductive. I see them instead as spaces that project their action far beyond their physical and natural boundaries. Spaces that together can be protagonists of major intercontinental interconnections. This vision spurs us to behave as natural partners. And I am convinced we can be an engine of cooperation, and by uniting the West and the East, Europe and Asia, we can contribute to helping overcome divisions. If you like the idea, I would like to work with you on a GCC Med Summit that obviously I am ready to host in Italy, a nation historically and geographically at the core of these spaces, to create this new and ambitious format of dialogue between Gulf and Mediterranean nations. A format that does not mean to compete with other international initiatives or fora, and does not work as an alternative to them, but one that knows how to work on complementarities, synergies, and mutual strengths. Our goal must be building a common operational platform focusing on the challenges in which we can make a difference together. And working together is essential for building shared paths to avert fundamentalist proselytism in Europe, enhance fruitful forms of dialogue and discussion between different identities, and concretely support integration paths. For cohabitation is possible, and I reiterate it here, in a nation that has been pioneer of interfaith dialogue and respect for other, thanks to King Hamad. I wish to recall and share with you an enlightened passage from the Kingdoms of Bahrain's declaration. We commit to working for a world where people of sincere belief join together to reject that which divides us and concentrate instead on celebrating and expanding on what which unites us. And obviously, dialogue must not aim at homologation or at cancelling differences. Far from it. Dialogue must instead help get to know each other, to fully respect each other. Your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, dear friends, in working on this meeting, I discovered one of the most fascinating symbols of this land, the Shajaratu El Hayatun, the tree of life, the magnificent acacia tree that has lived and thrived in the Bahraini desert for 100 years. It is a symbol of the impossible that becomes possible, like cooperation between us, like friendship between us, which some would like to make impossible, but which instead can richly flourish for a long time ahead. This is my personal wish, and this is also the reason why I'm so proud to be here. Shukran. Thank you very much.
أشكر دولة رئيسة الوزراء الإيطالية على هذه الكلمة الوافية مقدرا ما تضمنته من مشاعر طيبة وآراء حكيمة متطلعين إلى علاقات أوثق بين مجلس التعاون وإيطاليا الصديقة.
The GCC Secretary General Jassim Mohammed Al-Bdawi also delivered a speech. His Majesty the King then chaired the closed working session in the presence of Their Majesties and Highnesses, the GCC leaders and their representatives, and the President of Italy's Council of Ministers, the summit's guest. The session reviewed ways to support and develop the historical friendship and close strategic partnership between the GCC and Italy, as well as opportunities to enhance cooperation and joint action in various fields to achieve mutual interest and benefits for both sides. During the second working session of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council, the GCC Secretary General emphasized that the Gulf-Italian relations are well established, rooted in decades of constructive cooperation and based on mutual trust, shared respect and common interests. He said that the summit is the greatest proof of the GCC's strong will to develop their relations with Italy through cooperation with the EU and direct dialogue between the GCC and Italy. Al-Bdawi added that relations between the GCC and Italy have witnessed clear development in all areas, reflecting growing consultation on regional and international issues and in supporting efforts aimed at enhancing security and stability and combating terrorism. He said that the GCC stands on the threshold of a new phase of this partnership through discussing and working to sign a memorandum of understanding between the two sides on the mechanism of consultations between the two sides. Al-Bdawi affirmed that the GCC and Italy are working to complete the final steps to adopt the joint action plan for the years 2026-2030 in areas of common interest. He said the economic relations between the GCC and Italy are at an advanced model of effective partnership and are witnessing continuous growth that reflects the strength of cooperation and the growing common interests. Al-Bdawi said that the volume of trade exchange between the two sides reached more than $35 billion in 2024. Their Majesties and Highnesses, the leaders of the GCC member states, concluded the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council held under the chairmanship of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the chairman of the current session of the Supreme Council, and in the presence of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa at Sakhir Palace. At the beginning of the closing session, the Secretary General of the GCC, Jassim Mohammed Al-Bdawi, read the Sakhir Declaration.
الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب الجلالة والسمو الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسعدنا في ختام الدورة 46 للمجلس الأعلى لمجلس التعاون أن نتقدم إليكم بخالص الشكر والامتنان على تلبية الدعوة ومشاركتكم القيمة في أعمالها ومناقشاتها. كما أسعدنا حضور دولة رئيسة الوزراء في الجمهورية الإيطالية الصديقة. كما يطيب لنا أن نعرب عن بالغ الاعتزاز باستضافة هذه الدورة في مملكة البحرين، مثمنين ما أسفرت عنه من نتائج طيبة نأمل أن تسهم في تطوير مسيرة العمل الخليجي المشترك وإثراء مجالات التعاون والتكامل تحقيقاً لأهدافها المباركة. كما نتوجه بخالص الشكر إلى معالي الأمين العام وفرق العمل في الأمانة العامة على ما بذلوه من جهود مقدرة أظهرت أفضل درجات الإعداد والتنظيم. وفي الختام نسأل الله العلي القدير أن يديم على دولنا نعمة الأمن والاستقرار ويبارك في مسيرتنا الخيرة نحو مزيد من النماء والرخاء، وأن يوفقنا إلى ما فيه خير دولنا وشعوبنا، إنه سميع مجيب الدعاء. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مشكورين إخوان، شرفتوا بلدكم وأنستونا الله طلع.
The conclusion of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council. His Majesty the King bid farewell to their Majesties and Highnesses, the leaders of the GCC states and their representatives. His Majesty expressed his gratitude for their attendance and participation in the summit, their fruitful cooperation in ensuring its success, and their keenness to support this positive endeavor and boost the Gulf system to achieve further accomplishments and gains for the benefit of the brotherly nations and peoples. For their part, the GCC leaders and their representatives expressed their thanks and appreciation to His Majesty the King for the generous hospitality and warm welcome. They commended His Majesty's wisdom in managing the Gulf Summit sessions, which contributed to its success, and his honoring role in enhancing joint Gulf action. The final communique of the 46th GCC Supreme Council Summit in Al-Sakhir, Bahrain, the Sakhir Declaration, advised that their Majesties and Highnesses, the leaders of the GCC, affirmed the continuation of coordination and integration in political, security, economic and social fields towards achieving the desired unity, ensuring shared interests and enhancing regional security, peace and prosperity. The session highlighted GCC achievements in comprehensive defense and security frameworks, wise diplomatic stances and sustainable development projects, reflecting political cohesion and unified stances on various regional and international issues. The leaders welcomed the outcomes of the Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit, supporting regional and international efforts to end the Gaza conflict, facilitate humanitarian aid, reconstruction, and establish a sovereign Palestinian state on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital, according to the two-state solution and international legitimacy. Economic integration remains a priority, with emphasis on completing the Gulf Common Market and Customs Union. enhancing trade, tourism, investment, especially in strategic sectors like infrastructure, transport, energy, telecommunications, water, and food security, digital infrastructure, e-commerce, and shared systems for digital payments and cloud services are being advanced to promote full economic citizenship and sustainable development. The summit stressed continuing economic diversification and innovation based on sustainable economy to ensure long-term prosperity. It also focused on expanding cooperation and technology, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and digital transformation, stressing knowledge integration, combating cybercrimes, youth and women's active participation, and the role of think tanks in sustainable policy development. Environmental protection and climate change mitigation through carbon emission reduction, clean and renewable energy projects, and preservation of natural and marine resources align with GCC and global initiatives aimed for net zero and sustainable development goals. In foreign relations, the GCC aims to strengthen political security and economic partnership with friendly countries. International organizations and economic blocs cooperate against extremism, terrorism, hate speech, cross-border crimes, and enhance joint naval security efforts to protect energy security, maritime navigation, and international trade. The GCC also calls to make the Middle East free of nuclear and weapons of mass destruction, preventing an arms race for a regional stability. The GCC leaders also expressed full support to Bahrain, representing the Arab group with a non-permanent seat at the UN Security Council for the coming 2 years, confident in Bahrain's role in promoting international peace, dialogue, tolerance, coexistence, and humanitarian fraternity. Furthermore, the summit welcomed Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's participation and agreed on a comprehensive strategic partnership plan to deepen the long-standing friendly relations, reflecting the GCC's openness to broaden the partnership. Finally, the GCC leaders called for enhancing institutional cooperation mechanisms to widen fraternal solidarity and strategic integration for sustainable security and prosperity within a stable, safe region, contributing to building a more just and prosperous world, reaffirming their unwavering commitment to these principles for a brighter GCC future. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa hosted a banquet in honor of Their Majesties and Highnesses, the GCC leaders and their representatives, and the President of Italy's Council of Ministers, Giorgia Meloni, the guest of honor at the summit. The banquet was attended by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, at Al Sakhir Palace on the occasion of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received a cable of congratulations from His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa on the success of the 46th session of the Supreme Council of the GCC, the Bahrain Summit, chaired by His Majesty the King and hosted by Bahrain. His Royal Highness affirmed that the constructive results and fruitful outcome of the Bahrain Summit are the result of His Majesty's wise leadership and ambitious vision, and embody His Majesty's keenness to strengthen the cooperation between the GCC countries to meet the aspirations of the peoples of the GCC countries. His Royal Highness added that the presence of the President of Italy's Council of Ministers, Giorgia Meloni, as a guest of honor confirmed the high diplomatic standing of Bahrain and cemented the close historical ties of friendship between the GCC and Italy, and the keenness of His Majesty the King to enhance cooperation and partnerships. In the cable, His Royal Highness also praised His Majesty the King's comprehensive speech during the opening session, which highlighted the keenness to continue the long-standing tradition of joint Gulf action, which draws its strength from the bonds of fraternity and unity of purpose and destiny, and His Majesty's affirmation of the Council's correct approach towards the necessities of integration and unification in line with its strategic weight, and demonstrating its status as an effective and influential force in regional and international politics. His Royal Highness prayed to Allah the Almighty to grant His Majesty the King abundant health and happiness. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received a cable of congratulations from Her Royal Highness, the wife of His Majesty the King and President of the Supreme Council for Women, Princess Sabika bint Ibrahim Al Khalifa, on the success of the 46th GCC Summit, which was hosted in Bahrain. Her Royal Highness praised the achievements of the summit, which clearly reflected His Majesty the King's constant keenness to consolidate the approach of partnership and integration among the GCC countries, strengthen the Gulf unity, and affirm Bahrain's leading role in promoting comprehensive development, consolidating security and stability, and serving the common strategic issues in a manner that meets the aspirations of the present and future of the Gulf states and people. Her Royal Highness prayed to Allah the Almighty to grant His Majesty good health and long life and perpetuate the blessing of security and prosperity on Bahrain and the GCC. Earlier in the day, the Emir of Kuwait, His Highness Sheikh Mish'al Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, arrived in Bahrain to participate in the 46th GCC Summit and was received by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa. His Highness was also received by the personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and senior officials. Also, His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq of Oman was received by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa upon arrival in Bahrain to participate in the 46th GCC summit hosted by Bahrain. His Majesty was also received by the personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of the Prime Minister's Court, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and several senior officials. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa and the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, co-chaired the 4th meeting of the Bahrain Saudi Coordination Council held in Bahrain. The meeting was convened pursuant to the directives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and the custodian of the 2 holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, in affirmation of the deep-rooted historical ties and shared aspirations that unite Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. His Royal Highness commenced the meeting by extending a warm welcome to His Royal Highness the Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister. His Royal Highness highlighted the depth of the long-standing Bahrain-Saudi relationship, which continues to strengthen under the unwavering support of His Majesty the King and the custodian of the 2 holy mosques. His Royal Highness noted that the strong ties between the 2 kingdoms have fostered partnership that contribute and continue to drive the growth and deliver benefits to both nations and their peoples. His Royal Highness commended the pivotal role played by His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman in supporting the joint initiatives and projects endorsed by the Council that meet the far-reaching aspirations of both countries. For his part, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman expressed his pleasure at visiting Bahrain and meeting with His Majesty the King and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. His Royal Highness underscored the custodian of the 2 holy mosques' commitment to strengthening and expanding cooperation between the 2 countries and to advancing bilateral relations across all fields. His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman also conveyed his gratitude and appreciation to His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad for the warm welcome and the excellent organization of the Council's meeting. In the presence of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, the following was announced. Phased implementation of the electronic integration system linking the Bahraini and Saudi sides of the King Fahad Causeway. Activating the electronic gates for e-passport holders at airports in both countries. Facilitating proof of origin procedures for Bahraini industrial exports to Saudi Arabia. Integration. Providing scholarships for Bahraini students in Saudi Arabia. Approving intellectual property registration between the 2 countries. Bahrain's accession to the Middle East and North Africa Regional Safety Oversight Organization. Establishing an integrated data center in the Kingdom of Bahrain for the Saudi Telecom Company. Laying a submarine fiber optic cable linking Bahrain and Saudi Arabia with global networks. Aqua power investment in the Al-Azl, Ad-Dur and Al-Hid power generation and desalination plants in Bahrain. Establishing a solar power plant in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia and connecting it to Bahrain, Babco Energies and Aqua Power. Several agreements and memoranda of understanding were also announced as follows. Avoiding double taxation, encouraging direct investment, promoting and protecting competition, cooperation in diplomatic studies, nuclear safety and radiation protection, training and qualification in the field of railways, cooperation between the University of Bahrain and King Saud University, areas of sustainable development, procedures, mechanisms and strategies related to the non-profit sector. Moreover, His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad and His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman agreed to hold the 5th Bahraini-Saudi Coordination Council meeting in Saudi Arabia at date to be determined by the Council's General Secretariat. Several senior officials along with the heads of the Council subcommittees were also present. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa received earlier in the day His Royal Highness the Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud upon His Royal Highness's arrival in Bahrain to participate in the 46th GCC summit hosted by Bahrain. The Minister of the Prime Minister's Court, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of Finance and National Economy, Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, and several senior officials were also in attendance. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa met with the President of Italy's Council of Ministers, Giorgia Meloni. His Royal Highness highlighted the ongoing advancement of bilateral relations, which continues to be driven by strategic partnership across various fields under the support of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. His Royal Highness affirmed the Kingdom's commitment to building on this partnership to create quality opportunities that benefit both countries and their peoples. His Royal Highness also recognized the role played by Italy in consolidating global peace and regional security. In this regard, His Royal Highness highlighted the Kingdom's efforts under the leadership of His Majesty the King to promote tolerance, coexistence and human fraternity among nations and peoples.
على الشرف سلام جمهورية إيطاليا وسلام مملكة البحرين. سلام قف. على الشرف كتفان لا.
His Royal Highness and Prime Minister Meloni then witnessed the signing of the following: a partnership agreement between the Arab shipbuilding and repair yard company Asri and the Italian company Fincantieri in the field of shipbuilding and marine engineering. The agreement was signed by Asri CEO Dr. Ahmed Al-Ibri and the General Manager of the Naval Vessels Division on Fincantieri, Eugenio Santagata. A partnership agreement between Asri and the Italian company Robozi to establish an integrated smart factory utilizing additive manufacturing technology. The agreement was signed by Asri CEO Dr. Ahmed Al-Ibri and by Robozi CEO Licio Lorusso. An official reception ceremony was also held for the Italian Prime Minister, during which the national anthems of Bahrain and Italy were played. His Majesty the King's representative for Humanitarian Work and Youth Affairs, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of the Prime Minister's Court, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of Finance and National Economy, Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, and several officials attended the meeting. The UAE's Vice President and Deputy Prime Minister, His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, arrived earlier today to participate in the 46th Gulf Cooperation Council Summit hosted by the Kingdom. On arrival, His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed was received by the personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, along with a number of senior princes, ministers, officials, and dignitaries. Qatar's Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jassim Al Thani, also arrived in the Kingdom to participate in the 46th Gulf Cooperation Council Summit. Upon arrival, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman was received by the personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, along with a number of senior princes, ministers, officials, and dignitaries. The National Guard Commander, His Highness General Sheikh Mohammed bin Isa Al Khalifa, arrived in Pakistan, where he met with Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff, Field Marshal Sayyid Asim Munir, at the General Headquarters in Rawalpindi. Field Marshal Munir said the visit reflects ongoing efforts to strengthen the relations between Bahrain and Pakistan, particularly in defense areas. His Highness commended the progress of military cooperation and exchange between the two sides. He also highlighted Pakistan's contribution through its army to supporting regional and international security and stability. The meeting also discussed matters of common interest and means to further enhance cooperation between Bahrain and Pakistan, particularly in military affairs. At the conclusion of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council, chaired by His Majesty the King, with the participation of GCC leaders, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdul Latif Al-Zagani, and the GCC Secretary General, Jassim Al-Bdawi, held a press conference attended by a number of journalists and media representatives from local Gulf, Arab, and international media outlets. The Minister expressed gratitude for the tireless efforts of the GCC leaders to strengthen the joint Gulf action and added that the summit resulted in constructive decisions and a firm commitment to maintaining the GCC's cohesion. The Minister noted that the summit reflected a deep awareness of contemporary events and their repercussions on regional and global security and stability. He noted that the Sakhir Declaration of the Bahrain Summit 2025 conveyed the GCC's unwavering commitment to strengthening the deep-rooted ties and affirmed its dedication to preserving security and stability, economic integration, and empowering youth and women. The Minister said that the Supreme Council affirmed its commitment to the GCC's cohesion and the pursuit of greater coordination, integration, and interdependence in all fields. He noted that the GCC leaders also affirmed their united stance in confronting any threats to any member states. The Minister added that they emphasized the importance of strengthening partnership with allied nations among the GCC and with regional and international countries and organizations. He added that the leaders stressed the necessity of continuing negotiations to conclude the free trade agreements with various countries and international economic entities. The Minister said that the Supreme Council welcomed the participation of the President of Italy's Council of Ministers as a guest of honor. He noted that the discussions addressed issues of common interest, foremost among them the Palestinian cause and the war in Gaza, as well as ways to strengthen the existing cooperation between the two sides within the framework of the Joint Action Plan for the period 2026-2030. The Minister added that the Supreme Council praised the GCC's efforts during the war on Gaza, their continuous communication with friendly nations to end the war, secure the release of hostages and detainees, facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. The Supreme Council also welcomed the outcomes of the International Conference for the Peaceful Settlement of the Question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution and the outcomes of the Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit, as well as the agreement reached regarding Gaza. Regarding the Russian-Ukraine crisis, the Supreme Council praised the diplomatic efforts exerted to reach a political solution, facilitating the exchange of prisoners, reuniting children with their families, and providing humanitarian and relief assistance. He said that the Supreme Council assistance was reassured. He said that the Supreme Council welcomed Saudi Arabia's presidency of the 47th session. Al-Bdawi expressed appreciation to His Majesty the King for hosting the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council, noting that the GCC leaders were briefed on numerous topics related to joint Gulf action and directed the adoption of several resolutions concerning political, economic, security, military, and legislative matters. These resolutions aim to serve the GCC peoples, achieving their development and well-being and strengthening integration among the GCC. He also pointed out that the meeting of the GCC leaders with Meloni, Italy's Prime Minister, aims to strengthen friendly relations with Italy and with the Mediterranean countries and the EU. Under the patronage of the First Deputy Chairman of the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports, President of the General Sports Authority, and President of the Bahrain Olympic Committee, His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, a ceremony was held to honor the Executive Committee and volunteers of the 3rd Asian Youth Games, which Bahrain hosted last October. The ceremony was attended by the Vice President of the General Sports Authority, His Highness Sheikh Salman bin Mohammed Al Khalifa, Vice President of the Bahrain Olympic Committee, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Ali Al Khalifa, Chief Executive Officer of the GSA, Dr. Abdurrahman Askar, and the Bahrain Olympic Committee Secretary General Faris Al Kohaji. His Highness expressed pride in Bahrain's successful hosting of the 3rd Asian Youth Games, which demonstrated a strong team spirit and the high level of commitment shown by Bahrainis. His Highness commended the efforts of the Executive Committee, chaired by Yusuf Daij, and the nearly 3,000 volunteers whose contributions helped deliver an exceptional edition that showcased the Kingdom's capability and leadership in organizing major sporting events. His Highness noted that Bahrain consistently relies on its national talent, which has repeatedly demonstrated its capability to deliver major sporting events. His Highness expressed pride in the strong national spirit shown by all the organizers and extended appreciation to everyone who contributed to the success of the event, and added that the Bahrain 2025 edition stands as a defining moment in the history of the Asian Youth Games. His Highness then honored the heads of the Executive Committee, supporting companies and representatives of government agencies. A film highlighting key moments of the Games and the work of the organizing committees was also screened. The King Hamad Global Center for Tolerance and Coexistence organized a visit for the President of the Council of Ministers of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, to the Cathedral of Our Lady of Arabia. She was accompanied by the Minister of Sustainable Development, Noor Al-Khleif, in the presence of the Apostolic Vicar of Northern Arabia, Bishop Aldo Berardi, Executive Director of the Center, Munira Ad-Dosari, and a number of religious and official figures. Meloni expressed appreciation for the pioneering experience of Bahrain under the leadership of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa in respecting freedom of religion and belief, consolidating the values of tolerance and coexistence, and spreading a culture of peace and dialogue among civilizations, cultures, and religions. She was briefed on the role of the Cathedral of Our Lady of Arabia as a prominent religious and cultural landmark reflecting the spirit of friendship, tolerance, openness, religious and cultural diversity in Bahrain, as well as the social harmony among all segments of society. Executive Director of the Center, Munira Ad-Dosari, presented a summary of the Center's role in raising awareness of the values of tolerance, mutual respect, and coexistence among people. She highlighted its key initiatives and projects and scientific and training programs undertaken in partnership with local and international religious, cultural, and parliamentary institutions to build capacity. She also discussed the religious and community events organized by the Center.